expected in a way. Okay, so before we talk further, or before we start reading specifically onto this article itself, how I am going to lead this study group today is more about, very much interacting with each and every one of you. So, but before we go deeply into understanding patient, which is what our topic is today, let's talk a little bit about patient, right? So basically, I understand, or I definitely know that each one of us definitely know what patient is, because it has been introduced to us since when we are at a very younger age, either being, with your parents, right? Your parents sometimes always, they always encourage us to be patient, and also not only just family members, but even in schools, like your teachers or your peers or your seniors or your tutors and etc. Patience is never really something that is a foreign word or a foreign thing to any one of us, because it's part of our life. So let's take a moment and really imagine, like, this itself. As you, for example, as you learn more and more about Buddhism, or go deeper into Buddhism, you start gaining inspirations. You aspire to be all those great bodhisattvas, and you also vow to be one of the bodhisattvas that can liberate not only yourself, but also liberate others, right? And you are ready to do whatever it takes to actually do, these particular actions to help people. And no matter it's giving away either your possessions or spending your time or effort, right, in terms of volunteering, or trying to do more wholesome cause. But as you take your first step as a new bodhisattva, all right, a new bodhisattva, you may find sometimes your effort are not as appreciated by others, or by some people. And some people might have actually scorned you at your act of giving and loving kindness. And if this actually happens to you, if you actually face this such of challenges while practicing the Bodhisattva path, right, what will you actually do? Right? Will you actually continue this path, right? This Bodhisattva path, okay? So this itself, right, is where understanding patient actually comes into place. Okay, why we need to really understand what the meaning of this is. Okay, so let's go into details about this let's all just start reading again about the passage. Okay, so I'm going to do a bit of pointers in regards to names and so, and then maybe you can read this page itself. Okay, right, let me see who's in my screen at the moment. Okay, Daryl. Hi, Daryl. Will you be able to read this page for us?
Hi, Shufu. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Understanding patience. In Buddhism, the world we live in is known as the Saha world, which means to endure and have patience. In life, one has to endure not only suffering, hardship, poverty, hunger, cold, heat, anger, and resentment. But it also takes patience to have wealth, joy, gain, and fame. Hence, one cannot be without the cultivation and power of patience.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for reading this paragraph. Right. Next paragraph. Can Hank. Hi, Hank. Will you be able to read this second paragraph for me, please? It starts from here.
Certainly. Patience requires a high level of wisdom. Only then can one tolerate the intolerable and do the undoable. This is why Buddha praised the merit of patience as superior than that of generosity and holding precepts and upholding precepts. A person of patience is honored as a great person of strength.
Thank you, Hank. Right. And next paragraph, let's Jeanette. Did I pronounce your name right? Jeanette, right?
Yes, 师父.
Okay, great. Can you read us like this paragraph over here?
Okay, 师父. Some believe that the Buddhist concept of patience means not to retaliate when one is physically or verbally abused. Hence, they think that Buddhism is all about tolerating being disadvantaged. In fact, patience is to realize both these worldly and otherworldly truths and to respond accordingly.
Thank you, Jeanette. Right. Next one, Michi. Is that your name? Michi. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yeah, yes,
Hi.
correct. Sir.
Can you read us from this paragraph, please? Thank you.
Okay. Patience brings understanding, acceptance, and responsibility in dealing with and resolving situations. Patience is one's inner wisdom, moral courage, magnanimous kindness, and compassion, as well as awareness of one's true nature. It is a kind of supreme strength. Then.
Right. Great. Thank you. Okay. So next one, right? Jeremy. Hi, Jeremy. Can you read this whole passage right here, this whole page? Thank you.
Okay, good evening, masters. In Buddhism, there are 3 levels of patience. Number 1, ordinary patience. Number 2, dharma patience. Number 3, patience of non-arising dharmas. Number 1, ordinary patience. To sustain life, one must endure all the ups and downs, hunger, thirst, suffering, and joy in daily living. For example, for work, one must get up early to catch a ride, to endure hot or cold weather, and physical fatigue from lack of sleep. Furthermore, there are interpersonal disagreements, favors, and grievances. In other words, ordinary patience is the endurance and courage developed through learning to survive in the world. It is a type of training in daily living and interpersonal relationships that enables one to elevate and develop the wisdom and strength to resolve issues.
Thank you. Right. The next one, let's see. Erwin, can you read us this paragraph? I mean, this whole page, please.
Okay. Dharma patience. When one is faced with greed, anger, ignorance, and prejudice, self-control, self-therapy, and self-adjustment is necessary so that the mind abides in truth and remains unmoved by the arising and ceasing of all phenomena. For example, when faced with worry, sorrow, distress, pain, fortune, or the uncertainties of interpersonal relationships, not only shall one remain unmoved, but also be able to truly understand, deal with, resolve, eliminate these issues, and transform for the better. The Dharma patience is prajna wisdom, a realization that all phenomena are dependent, co-arising, and empty in nature, an understanding of causes, conditions and effects, and insights of all affairs and interpersonal relationships.
Thank you. Thank you, Irvin. Right. Next one. Okay. Remedios. Is that how I pronounce your name? Or Remedio? Hello, can you hear me? Okay, maybe next one, yeah. Right, Hank, would you be able to read this again? This whole passage over here.
Yes, excuse me. Number 3, patience of non-arising Dharma. When one realizes that all phenomena neither arise or cease and are hence equal and non-dual, one is able to attain the highest state of patience without having to be patient. If one is able to realize the principle of non-arising Dhamma at any time in any place, then there is nothing to be patient or impatient about, for everything is simply as it is.
Great, thank you, Hank. Thank you again. Right, next one. Okay. Jeanette, will you be able to read this again for me, please? This whole passage.
So for next, yeah, okay. One day, Hansan asked Shita, how should I deal with someone who slanders me, bullies me, insults me, ridicules me, disparages me, belittles me, offends me, or deceives me? Shita answered, just tolerate him. Be patient with him. Let him be. Avoid him. Respect him. Ignore him. And wait for a few years to see what becomes of him. Therefore, patience is courage and strength. Be motivated, not agitated. When faced with harm and humiliation, as long as one has inner strength, such humiliation and harm can be endured. Furthermore, the mind will be carefree. Be motivated to increase one's ability and wait for the right causes and condition to find the chance to start anew in life.
Great, thank you. Right, Daryl, back to you. Would you mind reading this whole passage, please?
In one of the Buddha's past lives as a practitioner of patience, his body was dismembered by King Kalinga. However, despite being cut apart piece by piece, no hint of hatred arose in him. This is because he had realized that the body was only an illusory form, and that all feelings, craving, hatred, likes and dislikes arise and cease in a moment.
Great, thank you, Daryl. Right, and last but not least, okay, Marlon. Marlon, hi. Would you be able to read this whole passage for me, please? Hello, Marlon. Can you hear me? All right, I'm going to maybe the next one then. Let me see in the screen. Yeah. Okay. What about Michi? Can you read this last passage for me, please?
Sure. Because he was without the notions of self, others, all beings, or longevity, he was able to eliminate attachment to form, remain unmoved, and accept karmic retribution calmly, Hence, the highest level of patience is to be without the notion of self or form. The reason that the Buddha attained Buddhahood, endowed with the 32 marks of excellence and 80 notable characteristics, and complete with merit and wisdom, is because he cultivated the paramita of patience and subsequently perfected all practices of 6 paramitas. Hence, the practice of patience is essential to Buddhist cultivation. Thank you, Shifu.
Thank you very much. All right, so let's break this apart. Let's break this passage, or let's break this whole article, okay? Like how we did previously. Okay, so first we go back into the first paragraph. Okay, the keyword over here, okay, it mentions that we are currently living in the Saha world, right? So Saha world, right? It means, you know, our current world itself, okay? It requires a lot of patience, right? So the meaning behind this, okay, to have patience and to endure, okay, this is what the word saha comes from, okay? So what actually is patience? Okay, what actually is patience? Okay, so patience, okay, why did the Buddha earlier, okay, saying that patience requires high level of tolerable, okay, sorry, why does patience requires a high level of wisdom, right? Firstly, okay, we know that the article, it mentions that to tolerate the intolerable, okay, that's why it requires a higher level of patience, right? Sorry, a higher level of wisdom, right? And also to do the undoable, okay? So it does requires a lot of wisdom to be able to practice this, okay? So patience, okay, in fact, okay, is to realize that this worldly and also otherworldly truth, right, and to respond it accordingly, okay, because patience, in fact, right, is not just what did the article mention just now, right? It's not just about just saying to tolerate or to practice patience or to be patient when people, you know, try to, um, uh, uh, you know, retaliate one's physical or verbal abuse, right? So what it says over here in the article that in Buddhism, okay, is really not all about tolerating and also being a disadvantage, right? That's why the Buddha mentions that patience is actually to realize, okay, that the truth, right? And to respond according to the truth itself, okay? So this is extremely, extremely important. Now you may ask, how do we actually practice patience, right? How? Okay, we always know the theory behind patience, right? We always know a lot of theories and you've heard a lot about it, but how do you actually practice such things? Okay, you know how, you know the theory, but you don't know how to do it, right? So practice patience, okay? What this article had mentioned earlier, firstly, you have to understand, right? And once you understand, right, you'll be able to, once you understand the situation, you'll be able to accept it, okay? And hence, you'll be able to resolve it, okay? Now, patience is actually one's inner wisdom, okay? Because once you have this inner wisdom in you, okay, you'll be able to see the truth, hence you'll be able to understand it, okay? And once you are able to understand, the next step of going to acceptance, okay, it does require a lot of moral courageous, right? Because once you're able to understand the truth, okay, you need the courage and the braveness in you to be able to accept the truth and to be able to realize the truth itself, right? And once you be able to do such things, okay, then by using what we call loving kindness and compassion, or magnanimous kindness and compassion to solve or even handle any challenges that ever really comes across you, okay, as well as the awareness of one true's nature, right? So that is why it says patient needs, a lot of strength and a lot of inner wisdom to be able to practice it and to be able to understand that. Okay, so now how many level of patience did it say just now? Right? It says earlier in Buddhism, there is 3 levels of patience. The first one is ordinary patience. Second one, Dharma patience, right? And the third one is the non-arising patience of the non-arising Dharma, right? So what exactly is the ordinary patience? Okay, we did talk a little bit about ordinary patience. Okay, we read a little bit about it. So what actually it is? Firstly, okay, to sustain life, okay, one must actually endure ups and downs, okay, or hunger and thirst, suffering, and also joy in daily living, right? This actually, to sustain life, is technically speaking our daily practice, or let's just say our daily, day-to-day basis, okay? When we are actually doing anything, okay, we need to endure, okay? For example, not everything comes by to us where we want it. We want how, to come by, right? Sometimes it goes the way you really want to go, which is extremely amazing, okay? And there is time where it doesn't, and there is a reason for it, right? And obviously that leads to then to, our emotions of sometimes we may be happy or sometimes we may be sad, right? And not every times we get this happy days, sometimes we get this sad days as well, right? When we work, right, we need to get up early in the morning, right? And sometimes during the weekends when we're not working, we get to sleep in, right? So this itself, okay, are, basically the sustain of life, right? Interpersonal disagreements, favor, and also grievance, okay, like what we mentioned earlier. So how do we actually control, not really control, but how do we actually goes about to facing all this day-to-day, situation or challenges, right? Obviously, firstly, you need a lot of endurance, right? You need a lot of endurance and you need a lot of courage to be able to practice this, right? Through endurance and also courages that develop, and then you'll be able to learn how to survive in this world, right? So it is, a type of training in this daily living, or, interpersonal relationship, you may say, that actually enables one to alleviate and also to develop this inner wisdom, okay, and strength to resolve your day-to-day issues, right? So this is the first step itself, okay, first levels of patience, okay? Now, the second level of patience, okay, when you go to the second level of patience, what is the second level of patience, right? As you can see, second level of patience is the Dharma patience. And what is it? What is it is the Dharma patience? Facing our 3 poisons, right? every one of us, we do have these three poisons. Okay, what are the three poisons, right? Greed, anger, and ignorance, right? So it is in us itself, right? So how do we face our three poisons? How do we practice this? Okay, obviously we need prajna wisdom to be able to do so. Okay, to be able to get this, so-called, so that the minds are able to, abide in the truth and also to remain unmoved, by any arising or even ceasing of phenomenon. Okay, because for example, if we are facing with worries or we are facing with sadness, sorrows and distress, all this, not only shall one remain unmoved, okay, but also be able to truly understand, what is the cause of this, okay, and then deal with it, right? And then you resolve it. And at the end of the day, you'll be able to eliminate these issues, okay, and transform it and transcend it to become better and hopefully to resolve it. And then, so Dharma patience, right, is actually prajna wisdom, which you also, or is a realization that all phenomena are actually what? Dependent origination, that actually, dependent co-arising, and also emptiness in nature, right? And understand the cause, condition, and effects, right? So this is the insight of all affairs and also interpersonal relationship. This is where everything is. This is the whole process that every one of us will have to go through, right? There is no escape from this, right? And so next thing, okay, the third level, which is the patience of non-arising, right? When we talk about patience of non-arising, where we know that all phenomena is neither arise nor cease, hence equal and non-dual, right? So, and then one are then able to attain the highest state of patience without being, having to be patient. Okay, in other words, once you're able to understand that it will automatically be in you and you will automatically be able to practice it without having to think about it, right? So, and there are two stories in here that actually talks about patience, right? So what are the similarities between these two stories? Right? So let's take a look at these two stories and the similarities in regards to, first is the stories of Han San and Shi De, and another one is the practitioner and King Kalinga, right? So the first similarities that I can see in here, okay, is firstly is being, mistreated, and also feelings of hatred and likes and then dislike, and then that's where it all comes from, right? And coming back to facing with just these two stories, okay, come back to our daily life of examples, okay, this is where the problems start, right? This is where how we all first starting, it starts with the fitness, because we humans, we have a lot of emotions, right? So when we start to have this feeling being, we have this feeling of mistreat or feeling of hatred and likes and dislike, sometimes we get to feel, vulnerable, and we start to have this, feeling, of we start to pull up this wall itself in front of us, right? And so how do we actually, practice this, or how do we actually solve this issue? Okay, again, right? Again, by being practice, okay, patient, okay, knowing that the highest of patient is without, is to be without the notion of self, nor or form, right? So go back to coming back to relating it to our daily life when we are able to, practice this, when we are able to control, when we are able to behave mindfully, we are able to, behave, or we are able to, once we are able to practice this, or we are able to understand this, then, automatically we will be able to understand, that, going back to the self itself, right? How you want to practice non-self at the end of the day, right? So now I want to hear from maybe one of you will be able to share, how does this affect your daily life, right? Does anyone wants to share in regards to how, if you're practicing patience, or if you, or let's just say, how do you practice patience, right? How does it affect in your, in your life with practicing patience? Does anyone wants to share?
Therefore,
Yes. Right.
um,
Who's this? Who's this? Is this
Erwin.
Erwin? Okay. Hi.
um, when I got into humanistic Buddhism because of I learned of the three poisons, and one of the three poison is anger, and that's my main problem. So after what, almost 16 years of practice, it's still my problem. So what I noticed, especially from this discussion today, is that yes, there is ordinary patience, but what I notice is uh, the arising of patience towards anger is so fast that many times we're not able to see through it. So that's why anger would have arisen already before we realize it. But but just the same, what I usually do is to step back. If I'm in an argument, I would stop and go to a place, and then I would chant either Heart Sutra or Amitofo, and just sit there. And sometimes I would analyze and find what triggered the anger in the first place. So at least it's like I'm trying to analyze how it started, and from doing so, I hope that in the future I'll be able to see through those trigger points. Yeah,
Right.
but still there are so many different trigger points, so it still would come out every now and then.
Thank you, Erwin. Thank you for sharing. Yes, exactly. I mean, this, like, it's because we're all human, right? We're all human, and that we have, we are not, we are on the way to, the Buddhist path. And obviously there is a lot of obstacles, I shall say, right? But before, let's just say, before Erwin, you actually learn about humanistic Buddhism, or you actually learn about these three poisons, maybe can you share a little bit about, for example, you say anger. So how does this, how was your behavior different than before you joining, you learn about this, and now that you have learned about this?
Oh yeah. So actually, even before I practice Buddhism, I already realized that my anger is affecting my life, affecting my work, affecting my relationship with my staff. Why? Because it's like almost every day I'm angry at someone. I have a company at the time. I have, I think, maybe less than 20 staff and workers. So, you know, I may not be angry at one person all the time. It could be like one different person every day, you know. So so I noticed that it's not good anymore. So I even told myself that I will not be angry anymore. And I even told my staff, I called the meeting, told everyone to come to the meeting, and I told them, starting today, I will not be angry at you anymore. But guess what? The next day, I was angry with someone again. So I cannot control it, right? So because of that, it came to a point even that I started to justify my anger. So I said, "Oh, I'm angry because you made a mistake. I'm angry because you're not doing your job well." So I'm creating reasons already to justify my anger. Yeah, I would say I'm angry because I'm the boss. I'm angry because I'm right. You know, so there's this justification already. But it was only in when I started practicing, and that I'm able to control my anger, although I say that it still arises, right? So comparing before is almost like 6 times a week, almost every day in a week, sometimes even on Sunday, even if I don't have work, I'm driving, somebody cuts in front of me, I would, you know, shout already, even the person cannot hear me, you know. So it would be every day before, but now it's maybe once or twice a month. So it's still, there's still a lot of work to do, but I would say it's a lot less already. So I'm able to reduce maybe 90% of my anger. Yeah, so that's what I see.
Great, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to be able to share, um, such a problems. But let's not forget that this problem is actually happens to everybody, right? Does anyone apart from Irving wants to share their story or any similar story that is same as Irving, and maybe share a little bit about how you deal with the process and or how and then use patience to actually practice this process.
Amitofo.
Hello.
Hello, Sufu. Thank you for your compassion teaching. I began to know how to deal when at first the story of I'm pretty sure everybody knows this story where a monk would like to meditate, but because the monastic was too crowded, so he went to a river and then rent a boat. So when he goes to the center of the river, it's very quiet, so he was able to meditate. Then suddenly something bumped into his boat. So he was startled, but at first he still closed his eye and trying to get into again. But again, something again bumped his boat until it keeps bumming that he feels that the anger is getting arise up. And then when he was about to shout at that person, he opened his eyes and then realized there is no one at the boat. So I really gets that the anger or whatsoever actually it came from my own perception towards the situation. So because of that, I was able to control right now my emotion, whatever emotion, angry, sad, or whatsoever, I can really try to contemplate within. Second, how do I treat it? Whenever I see or meet a person that having a disagreement, I will be able first to say, okay, this is on me. This is my perception of this person. So what can I do in order for us, what can I do to make it harmonious? So I step back and I try to understand the other person where it came from, the disagreement. So I will ask, at first, I will ask him, I'm very sorry. I don't know what did I do to cause this particular situation. I can understand. Uh, can you help me understand what you're feeling so that we can try to resolve it harmoniously? Usually, when I step back and become much more humble, yeah, I guess 90% of the person that I talk to melt down and they were able to open the conversation. And yeah, we can resolve the issue much better. And then, yeah, I mean, and then I'm going to teach him how to breathe, breathing in, breathing out. And I will tell him, brother and sister, do not worry. If you need help, I'm here. If I can't, let's try to solve it together. That is how I try to practice Amitabha.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I mean, this is a good sharing because um, uh, just like what Irvin mentioned earlier as well, when, uh, in regards to a problem, going back to self is extremely important. And going back to self, whereby you realize you start asking the questions why, where the original source comes from, or why it happens. And then once you be able to understand that, you're always first going back to self, and then um, then you'll be able to realize, and slowly you'll be able to find the control in your hands as well at the end of the day, in regards to solving your um, solving your issues. And this is exactly what, when going back to this story, or the story of Hansan and Sita, and also the practitioner and Kalingas, whereby going back to, this is the inner wisdom, right? This is the inner wisdom whereby, we tend to always start blaming others first, right? We tend to always start blaming others first before we come back to ourselves, right? It's always other people's fault, and it's 19, maybe like 1% is your fault, but 99% of it is other people's fault, right? So, but when you try to turn around the situation, right, that is where you start using your inner wisdom to switch things around a little bit, right? And then start reflecting, and then, ultimately you are able to, do it in a much more humbly way, right? And do it much more in a more, calmer way to resolve the issues, right? And also, what I take is from is whereby seeing from yes, like what I read from the comment over here, saying that thinking from, others, right? You think from other people's shoes, right? Always put yourself in other people's shoes, because at the end of the day, you do not know, everyone has their own battle, you could say, right? So if you put yourself in other people's shoes, and then you'll be able to understand more, and you'll be able to deal with things more, right? So when we come back, okay, to this particular topic, understanding this patient, and also to this going back to this story, can anyone else like share what have you taken from this story? And that, maybe some of you may have the same issue as Irvin or Jeanette, and, maybe can other people share a little bit about this? Maybe, let's see. Hank. Hi, Hank. Will you be able to share what your thoughts are?
Sifu, I'm not sure I can. I'm a little confused. This is my first meeting.
It's
with
okay,
your-
you can just share your thoughts, it's fine.
Well, one of, excuse me, I find it difficult to, my financial situation is very difficult. I'm 72 years old. I've been supporting a family of 4 on a meager retirement income. So we're lucky enough to have a safe home. We have food. We have fairly good health. But I find that I want much more for my family. And the tough part is finding the patience to deal with or to live with my existing situation. I find that I always want more. And I that's very stressful to me. So I just began looking into Buddhism and trying to meditate and trying to have a mindfulness to try to calm myself about my situation. I hope that I'm not wasting your time, but I'm that is my difficulty with having
Oh, not
patience.
at all, right? It's a good sharing, actually, at the end of the day. I mean, thank you, firstly. Thank you for sharing. It's difficult to share. And it's because, like I said, everyone, has their own difficulty. Everyone has their own situation. And everyone has their own process to deal with, right? And, but thank you, really. Thank you for sharing. So, when you actually, right, Hank, let's just say when you go back to the story, we talk about, there's 2 stories, right? Right, the story
Yes.
of Han Shan and Si De, and also there's the story of Kalinga, right? So
Yes.
based on this story, okay, if you want me to go back into this story itself, okay, let's just go back to this story. Maybe you can have a clearer understanding. Right. See, this is a story of Han Shan and Si De. You're able to see it, right?
Yes. Yes, I can see it.
Right? So when you read in this situation, right, do you see that it is somehow reflect, or will you be able to see the similarities in regards to this situation and your situation? Oh, let's just say this is the other story. Wait, this is one story. Right, this is one story, and this
Yes.
is another story. Right, this is another story.
Okay.
Right?
Yes. I'm having difficulty relating to those particular stories. The first one, I'm not in a position where I'm being ridiculed
It's okay. It's
or
okay.
and the second story, I don't I'm not physically being abused, so and maybe I'm not seeing seeing into the story like I should, but it seems to me a story of physical abuse, and I'm not, again, I can't seem to relate to those two. Um, I see myself, um,
It's okay. Basically, okay, let me go back to the original, or let me just go back to what we mentioned in the beginning, right? We talk
Okay.
about every one of us have 3 patients. Everybody remember that? Sorry, we talk about, yeah, every one of us has 3 poisons in us, right? The first is greed,
Okay.
right? Second is anger.
Okay.
And then lastly is ignorance,
Okay.
right? Yes, this story might be talking about physical abuse, or another story might saying be, you know, being very much into a physical thing, but metaphorically speaking, right?
Yeah.
The key point over here, let's just take this for example. Okay, so in the Buddha past life, a practitioner of patient, he's a practitioner of patient. His body was dismembered by the king, and then, you know, however, being cut, he did not behave, or he did not feel any hatred arose in him. Now, because he realized that the body was an illusory form, and that all feelings, craving, hatred, like and dislike arise and cease in the moment, right? So
Yes.
saying this is because one of it is because the Buddha is already reached at that level, and that is why the Buddha are able to do so. Now, we as a ordinary human being, we are still practicing what the Buddha practiced, right? And yes, all of us will have all these cravings, and also, you want more. You always want more. Wanting more, firstly, okay, it can be obviously a problem, but at the end of but also another thing is, it also can be something that is positive. Right? If you don't have this urge, for an ordinary people that doesn't have this urge, then this person might not have motivation, right? And then
Yes.
if you have too much of this urge, like this urge of wanting more, then obviously you will fall into the category of greediness, because you just want more and you can't stop of wanting more, right? But the thing is that, okay, firstly, you are able to know that you do have this problems, or you are able to understand this, where your original problems are, which is extremely a good thing, because not a lot of people wants to face their problem, or not a lot of people actually wants to admit that this is actually their problem, or this is actually their issues. And and that's why you start to have this feeling of unease, or it still doesn't seem to be enough, right? So
Okay.
maybe, right, you can firstly, like what, even like what, based on what Jeanette mentioned earlier, or even what Irvin mentioned earlier about taking a step back and start reflecting into it, and try to hold yourself back a little bit more and read about the theory of Buddha's practice, and how the Buddha actually practiced patience itself. Okay. And
Yeah.
then slowly you'll be able to adapt into situations, right? Or slowly it might be able to help you in a way, but it does take time, and it does take a lot of effort as well. Okay, because it doesn't comes easy. It doesn't comes easy, because to practice even the Buddha's practice, okay, or the Buddha's theory, it does requires something, a situation has to occur, or in our daily life, or any obstacles that we face in order to be able to practice the Buddha's practice, or else the theory will just be a theory, right?
Oh.
So
Okay.
by reflecting to, going back to, maybe let's just take like Jeanette, if you're still there, have you ever experienced, let's just say, a similar situation to Hank? Of wanting a lot and a lot and a lot, and then, and maybe you'll be able to, share your thoughts in regards to this. Sorry, you're in mute.
Is it, Brother Hank, is it about peace of mind?
Somewhat, Jeanette. As I said, I've been fortunate. I really feel my family is blessed, as there is no question about it. But I I want so much more for my children. I'm, as I mentioned, I'm 72 years old. I've lived the greatest part of my life. Um, and I've been lucky enough to have very few uh, misfortunes along the way. But I want. It's not that I want material things for my children. I think that they're both. My daughter is second year in nursing school. My son is about to enter college. I think that they will be able to provide for themselves eventually. But I feel like something is missing, and I can't quite put my finger on it. I guess that's what's been so frustrating to me. Um, I'm sorry, I can't elaborate any clearer than that. I just, it's something in me that's saying there's got to be more that I can provide for them. And I don't know what that is. um,
Oh,
um,
okay.
uh,
So you're feeling the void. You're feeling
yeah,
something void in yourself. Am I right?
yes, I think you're absolutely right. I don't know how to feel it. um,
Okay. This is what I do. Okay. Um, usually I try to new friend. What are you
yeah,
going to do to know this new friend?
uh, well, I would probably try to share my myself, my experiences, and accept and ask that friend to reciprocate, to tell me about them, about about their life, about their likes, dislikes, etc. That's what I would try to do to make a new friend.
Okay. So how are you going to continue making this new friend so that you would know him better?
I continue to try to meet with him, uh, to share, meal, to share um, likes, dislikes. I guess that's how I would go about it. I have to tell you though, I only have one friend, so um, so I'm not a very sociable type of person. But that's how I've acquired this friend. Is we've met and shared coffee, shared our experiences, shared our stories about our families, etc.
Okay. So let's just use your best friend as an example. Pretty sure you know him, his likes, his aspiration, his desire, his dislikes. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Yes. Okay. So that means, is it right that you have spent your energy and your time to know this person? Am I right?
Yes, yes, you are right.
Okay. So since you invested your time and energy to this best friend of you, in order for you to know him better, did you ever pause to also see yourself also? I mean to say, let me change the question. Did you ever also give the time and energy to know yourself? Do you
Um,
really know? Do you really know Brother Hank? Do you think, is it fair? Did you give fair by giving your friend your time and energy to know your best friend, but did you ever pause to also give that same energy and time to know Brother Hank?
I have to honestly say I probably did not.
Precisely. Precisely. Because right now, let's say I'm the best friend, you know it. You know what is favorite, what is like, what is desire over his family. Am I right?
Yes, yes.
Oh, so why pause for a while? You try to do it, date with Brother Hank, date with Brother Hank, go movie with the person that you see in the mirror, because that person is the one with you 24/7. That is the person with you through thick and thin. That is the person with you, that you take care of your children, of whatever position that you have right now. And that is also the person that is with you in knowing your best friend. Is it fair enough that you give also time and energy to the person in the mirror that you see every morning?
That's a excellent advice, and I think I'm trying to do that now. I think that's the journey that I've started on right now. Um, Again, I've just started to meditate. I mean, I was introduced to Nichiren Shoshu Buddhism 40 years ago, and I never progressed in that form of Buddhism. Um, Now, mindfulness is so out front on every media. In fact, my therapist even gave me an app for my phone about mindfulness. So I am now trying very desperately to learn about me, Jeanette.
Yes.
And that's excellent advice. Thank you so much for sharing
Yes.
that with me.
I
And
agree,
I
Jeanette. Like Jeanette pointed out a good
Yes.
point, actually, because the thing is, we as some part of ourself itself, sometimes we always want something, and then we are so strive to go for it, like to the things that we want, that sometimes we really forgot our original intention, our, we can, this is why, you know, this is where middle path comes into play, right? Middle path. So
The middle path, okay.
yeah, the middle path, it comes into play itself. So when you start, like what Jeanette has mentioned, when you start, to go back, to take a step back and start to come back to yourself and ask yourself, reflect upon your, it being your daily activity, or, it's, once you're able to reflect yourself in regards to that, then you might be able to take, to look at things differently. Right? Because the thing is, we human are tend to have these perceptions of everything. Right? For example, when you look at something like, you automatically think, oh, this might be a mug or it might be a cup, but did you feel it? You didn't feel it, because, this idea was probably put to you when you were a young child, or when you were, saying that this is a cup, is where you're supposed to drink water, or you're supposed to drink, any liquid form, that's why it's a cup. Right? But if you actually touch it by yourself, or if you actually hold it in person, you might think that, hey, if it's big enough, I could probably use it as a bowl to, eat my meals and stuff like that. Right? So as human beings, if you go back to talk, when we talk about 5 aggregates, perceptions is part of us, right? So, but when we go back to our original self, you start to question, and then you start to think things differently, right? So I hope this, Brother Hank, you'll be able to slowly take this from, or try to, practice, or try to see from this point of view itself, and, to see how about things goes. And then from then on, okay, let's just say there's no 100% guarantee or anything like that, right? But it's a process where every one of us will actually face at the end of the day, right? Because in Buddhism, we do talk about, as what, we go back into dependent origination, and obviously emptiness, and obviously at the end of the day, you talk about the cause, you have the cause, right? Condition, and then effects at the end of the day. And you can't run from all this, right? You can't run from all this. And at the end of the day, there is also another thing whereby it calls karma, right? And nobody can run from all this, right? So by dealing with this, I'm sure every one of us are able to take a step back. This is where patience comes from, right? You take a step back, and then you slowly reflect in your situation, right? Just as Venerable Master also mentioned a little bit about this, whereby he mentioned that patience is neither passively compromising nor holding in one's anger, right? It is a kind of compassion and tolerance for others, right? And those who practice patience and compassion truly understand that ones are equal. Now, before we use this on others, we must first use this on ourselves, right? Because sometimes if we use this on others, okay, without even coming back to ourselves, how, would you be able to be firm enough, or be able to be strong enough to be able to handle, others, or to be able to help others' problems in regards to that, right? So, but at the end of the day, it also works, vice versa. It also works equally in regards to that. See, so that is why it actually comes, you know, it does take time, it does take effort, and it does take a lot of, you know, tryings of this is where, you know, whether or not the method itself works for you, right? It might work for you or it might not work for you, but at the end of the day, if you keep looking for it, or if you you know, if you don't give up, and if you just keep looking for you, at the end of the day, there will be a suitable method for each and every individual to be able to practice, you know, certain things, right? Because
Sure.
each, let's just say each human or each sentient beings have their own capacity to be able to learn things, right? If you go back to, you know, using the example from the Lotus Sutra, you know, the story of the burning house, whereby some people relating to the story of the burning house, that some people, they just want to hear certain things, or they want to, you know, when they hear certain things, only it reflects to them, only it, they, you know, realize that, you know, that it is actually not something that is good for them, or it actually, it will cause them harm in a way, or it will actually, you know, or it will be good for them, you know. So it works differently for different people, and it really does take process to be able to figure out, you know, what actually works for you, what actually suits for you at the end of the day, right? So by always questioning about how, you know, just questions, you know, your daily questions to yourself, you know, you'll be able to slowly realize, right, how things works, you know. So before I, you know, before we end this, or before we go this, does anyone else wants to share? Maybe Daryl. Hi, Daryl. Would you like to share a little bit about your thoughts in regards to this?
Thank you for um, understanding patients. Tonight's topic is a bit familiar to me. I have been, I, I had attended some of the talks from our guest venerables in Bowman College. So for me, I think it's there are just sometimes that our patients will be tested not only by the situation but also by the people around us. In my case, I am now a real estate sales representative, and what I do in my job is that we offer house and lots. We offer lots, free selling lots to people, to clients, and whenever they visit the site, the location where we are selling lots, most of the response will be, oh, okay, we'll tell it to my wife, I'll tell it to my husband, I'll inform you, I'll give you an update. Oh, let me check this, let me study this. So there are really times when every week, for the whole week, all of them are saying, "Oh, I have to ask my friend. I have to ask my family." It really tests my patience, and for the way I handle these kinds of somehow challenges, or really a test, is that I meditate, I attend this kind of talks. I also attend the Sunday check-in by Nantin Institute, and Dharma keeps me going. Dharma keeps me waiting for my clients, or really who will really buy. So these these kind of topics, these kind of talks every Wednesday, every Sunday, and then I also have meditation every Saturday. Really keeps me alive and keeps me motivated to continue or to keep that faith, keep that keep that hope that as long as I am doing wholesome or right thing, as long as I don't hurt other people, somehow the as long as I plant seeds, good seeds, sooner or later it will eventually bloom. It will eventually I will eventually harvest. So there are really times when my patience is being tested. So it's really part of life. Thank you, Amitofo.
Thank you, Daryl, for sharing. I think one thing that we all can relate to this is whereby, being in a world that we are living in at this moment, okay, it is essential to be able to practice patience, right? We can't really escape from it or anything like that, or we can't really there's no any other alternative to it. It does comes a part, it is a part of us. All right. So basically, always take things as in when we go back to this understanding patient, this topic itself, right? Understand in terms of specific or the suffering is that you are actually going through, right? And then from then on, then you'll be able to slowly, once you'll be able to understand the whole situation, then acceptance wouldn't take so difficult at the end of the day, right? And then because once you're able to understand, it will actually, gives you this courage or so-called, or because you realize the problems itself, and then slowly then you'll be able to find ways that is suitable to be able to solve any particular problems or any obstacles or any challenges that actually you're actually facing at this point of time, right? So for me itself, okay, I will share a little bit about myself, okay, because like I mentioned, I was born in Malaysia, right? But I actually grew up sort of I'm very much English educated. And so when going to Taiwan to study, right? Or even up to now, okay, even after graduation, I always thought Chinese is an extremely language for me. It's an extremely difficult language for me, right? Because it's not like ABC, it's actually characters, So I feel like Chinese, it can be extremely daunting sometimes when you have to speak in front of a public, okay, to present yourself. Chinese is, yeah. So, but obviously, okay, knowing that this is extremely daunting, okay, one thing that actually helped me is by understand, knowing that at the end of the day, if today I'll be sharing an article in Chinese or I'll be giving a talk in Chinese, some people might not understand, or some people might make fun of it, or some people might, because due to my language ability or due to my, in terms of the way I pronounce, it might not be 100%, So, and from then on, knowing the effect itself, whereby these are all my effects itself. But when I go back to understanding why this affects itself, okay, why people doesn't really understand, or maybe they understand wrongly, is because the way that I pronounced it in a different way, right? The way I pronounce it in a much more, not a proper way of saying it, of the particular word. And so from then on, then, it gives me the courage to accept other people's opinion or criticism, or even, being laughed at, or saying, a joke about in regards to my language barrier and stuff like that. But because, what, the cause itself is from my end, whereby, and from be able to understand this whole cause itself, right? I'll be able to understand that it requires, I'll be able to practice, or I'll be able to understand that patient comes. It just takes, a big step for me, because with patience, I'll be able to then, accept that. I'll be able to keep going, even though knowing that, right, I'm not be able, like, I won't be able to say this particular word, or I won't be able to read it fluently in Chinese. But if I keep doing it 100 times, at the end of the day, it would definitely improve way better than the first time that I started out, right? And so it does take time. It does take effort, and yeah, it does take a lot of, sweats, and it does take a lot of, tears of, like, being, all this emotion. Okay, it is in me, all right, because at the end of the day, we're still human, right? So once you'll be able to accept all this, once I'll be able to understand all this, it does take it a little bit easier to to so-called continue and not give up at the end of the day, because I know what at the end of my, the goal was, was to doing it, was to, to be able to practice, to be able to understand, or to be able to making sure that other people understand what you're trying to say in a different language than your mother tongue language. So it does take, a lot of effort, and patience definitely brings a part in this itself. But saying like this, it's not to say that it's extremely easy, right? It does take time, and it is difficult, right? It is difficult, and it does take time. And at the end of the day, okay, effort also, it does play a part, right? So, and I'm sure it does, reflect to based on, going back to either Jeanette's program, or Jeanette's story, or even Hank's story, or even Irvin's story, or Darrell's story, in regards to this itself. So, yeah, so this itself, this is what I want to share, and I'm really grateful for today, that all of you be, participate in our study group for today. But before I end this session, right, let's like read this dedication of merits, right, as we did previously. Now, everyone may join our palms, right? All of us can join our palms, okay? And so let's all read together, okay? May kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity pervade all worlds. May we cherish and build affinities to benefit all beings. May chant, Pure Land, and precepts inspire equality and patience. And may our humility and gratitude give rise to great thoughts. Thank you. Thank you everyone for today's session. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate to be able to have these affinities, to be able to meet all of you and to share the Dharma with you. I hope it doesn't confuse anyone. But if you do, maybe, if there's more questions, maybe you may post it to Venerable Wu Hai, and then maybe Venerable Wu Hai then will let me know, and then, we'll be able to, I'll be able to share in regards to my thought, hopefully. So yeah, so thank you everyone for today's
you all.
session.
Thank you very much.
Let's turn on our video. Let's have a photo. So, yes.
Yes. Wait. I have to stop sharing first. Hold on. There you go. Okay.
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 One.
Good night.
Let's take a photo first. 1, 2, 3. Yes, lotus flower. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Brother Hank, how did you know about this group?
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
谢谢师傅，谢谢。
谢谢师傅。
谢谢。
Hopefully we can have 智权法师 again soon.
Yes.
Hopefully.
And I like your London accent.
Oh, no. Mine is just.
I detected the
I
London
love that
accent awful. Yes.
Brother Hank, how did you know about this group?
I sent a text message to the temple here in Cebu City.
Oh, you're based in
and
Cebu?
yes, I'm in Cebu. I live here. I've been here 15 years with my wife and my children.
Mm.
And so, yes, I inquired about it, and they sent me back the information on how to join your group. So,
Okay, that's
yeah.
good. Hope to see you every week. We're actually based in Cebu also, although many of the participants are from Manila and Malaysia and London or wherever. Yeah, but
Yes.
started here in Cebu.
Okay, well, very good. I certainly enjoyed tonight, and I will join you next week. I'll look forward to joining again next week.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Hank.
We have activity on February 26th at 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. and welcome to join the activity at Temple.
oh, okay, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Yes,
and
February
and
26th. Yes.
Yeah,
okay,
Welcome.
February. Thank you so much.
yeah. Where
Okay.
are you staying? Where is your place?
My base.
Yeah,
I live.
your place.
I'm in. I'm in Punta Princesa.
Oh,
in
Lapu-Lapu.
Cebu.
Oh no,
No, Cebu City, Labangan.
Labangon. Oh, not very far from the
Yes.
temple.
Hey, right, very close.
Yeah, Virama.
Very close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll
Yes.
see each other more often. And you
Okay.
also, Sepo. Venerable.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. Is Max beside you or something? She asked me to stay around.
Hmm? You can.
Oh.
Is what do you call? This account, you opened it, isn't it, Urban?
Yeah.
So technically speaking, if you go, the whole account will be gone as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, I understand now.
So
All right then.
you talk first?
Yes, I will.
I
I will.
can leave it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right then. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.